Was the court-martial scene between Winters and Sobel an accurate depiction of the true events that happened during World War II? The simple answer is no. Real life is not the same pace as movies or television shows. The show Band of Brothers compressed the court-martial proceedings of Richard Winters to under 3 minutes of screen time, which in real life took 13 days to be resolved through the decision of Lieutenant Colonel Strayer to dismiss the case. The show also invented the scene where Winters wrote his request for a trial by court-martial in front of Sobel. In reality, Winters wrote his response in the orderly room where he was previously censoring the letters of the Easy Company men and not in front of Sobel. Sobel's original order, which Winters was following, is to inspect the company latrines an hour prior to an 11 a.m. inspection by Colonel Sink. Prior to the designated time of inspection, Winters was censoring the outgoing mail of Easy Company's soldiers, as instructed by Lieutenant Colonel Strayer in the orderly room. After censoring the men's outgoing mail, Winters rode his bicycle to the latrines and arrived to conduct his inspection at exactly 10 a.m. Upon entering the latrines, he found Sobel conducting his own inspection, assisted by the latrine orderly Private Joaquim Mello. After he finished with his inspection, Sobel left without acknowledging Winters. Winters proceeded to do his own inspection and saw that everything was in order. At 10:45 a.m., while Winters was preparing for Colonel Sink's inspection of the latrine, First Sergeant William S. Evans handed him the letter from Sobel containing his punishment under the 104th Article of War. The scene where First Sergeant Evans hands Winters the letter is also not factual because in actuality Winters was preparing for the inspection of the latrine and not just standing and having a talk with Nixon. After receiving the letter from First Sergeant Evans, Winters hurried to Sobel's office to confront him about the letter. This is where the show diverges from the actual events. Sobel and Winters sent multiple official letters to each other concerning the supposed violations charged against Winters. The contents of these letters were used in the scene as dialogue between Winters and Sobel as they were walking to Sobel's office.
No, sir, I do not understand. Your orders to me were to inspect the latrines at 1000 hours. From 0930 to 0955, I was censoring the enlisted men's mail by order of Colonel Strayer. At 1000 hours, I followed your orders to the minute.
I changed that time to 0945.
No one told me, sir.
I telephoned.
I'm quartered with a family that has no telephone.
And sent a runner.
No runner found me, Captain.
Irregardless, when given a task to perform by a ranking officer, you should have delegated your task of latrine inspection to another officer. You failed to do so. So, your options are quite simple, Lieutenant. Punishment for your offenses will be denial of a 48-hour pass for 60 days. Stand before me at attention. Or you may initiate a letter of appeal and request a trial by court-martial. You spend your weekends on the base anyway, Dick. Be a man, take the punishment.
May I borrow your pen, sir? My endorsement, sir. I request trial by court-martial.
The writers made this scene more intense by showing that Winters wrote his request for trial by courts-martial in front of Sobel. However, in reality, Winters returned to the latrine to finish the inspection. After this he proceeded to the orderly room where he wrote his request for trial by courts-martial. The following are the actual contents of the letters between Winters and Sobel.
October 30th, 1943. Subject: Punishment under 104th Article of War. To First Lieutenant Richard D. Winters. 1. You will indicate by endorsement below whether you desire punishment under 104th Article of War or trial by courts-martial for failure to inspect the latrine at 0945. This date is instructed by me. Herbert M. Sobel, Captain Commanding.
October 30th, 1943. Subject: Punishment under 104th Article of War or trial by courts-martial. To Captain Herbert M. Sobel. 1. I request trial by courts-martial for failure to inspect the latrine at 0945 this date. Lieutenant Richard D. Winters. Executive Officer. Company E.
October 31st, 1943. To First Lieutenant Richard D. Winters. 1. You will be denied a 48-hour pass until December 15th, 1943. 2. In accordance with the procedure outlined in the court-martial manual, you will institute your own letter of appeal with your reasons for objection and also request for trial by courts-martial. 3. Unless set aside by superior authority, the above punishment will be enforced. Herbert M. Sobel, Captain Commanding.
November 4, 1943. 1. Under the provision of Article of War 104, appeal is requested on punishment rendered by Captain Herbert M. Sobel on Lieutenant Richard D. Winters for failure to inspect latrines on October 30, 1943 at 0945 hours. 2. On October 30, 1943, I was ordered by Captain Herbert M. Sobel to inspect the latrines at 1000 hours. Until that hour I was engaged in supervision or work relegated to me by Lieutenant Colonel Strayer at about 0930 hours. I did inspect the latrines at 1000 hours and never received the latter order of Captain Sobel moving up the time to 0945 hours as I was on detail as previously explained. Lieutenant Richard D. Winters. Executive Officer. Company E.
November 8, 1943. To First Lieutenant Richard D. Winters. 1. Punishment for the above offense given by the undersigned will not be lifted by him. 2. You will recall that in a telephone conversation about 0915 on October 30th, I talked with you and told you to be here at 0940. And to have Lieutenant Davis be here also then. 3. When given another task to perform by a ranking officer to myself, you should have delegated your task to another officer to inspect the latrine, and not let it go until such time that there was little time for corrective measures to be taken before the arrival of the general officer about 10 minutes later. Herbert M. Sobel, Captain Commanding.
Lieutenant Robert Strayer intervened and put an end to the dispute between Sobel and Winters.
November 11, 1943, Subject 104th Article of War, to Lieutenant Richard D. Winters, through Commanding Officer Company, E1 punishment under 104th Article of War of Lieutenant. Richard D. Winters is hereby set aside, as per authority contained in Court-Martial Manual. 2. Papers will be returned to the appellant's commanding officer for file with the record in the case. Robert L. Strayer, Lieutenant Colonel 506th Parachute Infantry, Regiment Commanding.
Although Winters was acquitted of Sobel's charges, he was transferred by Strayer out of Easy Company and was made battalion mess officer. Winters' transfer out of Easy Company caused feelings of disgruntlement within the ranks of the non-commissioned officers. This gave rise to the mutiny of the noncoms against Sobel's command of Easy Company. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please support me by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Until next time.